Grey light in the riverlands, wet grass, rain on iron, a field that already has its dead. A knight in a white cloak walks out alone between two armies. Sir Criston Cole, the Kingmaker, hand to two kings on the last morning of his life. He has already asked for the only mercy he wanted. Strike my banners, spare my men. They laughed. So he asks for the one thing a knight has left. Single combat, one of him against the two of them. Then he asks the field a question. Will that be enough to make a fight of it? Fire and Blood answers him in the one sentence that gives that death its meaning. The show does not film it. So here is your job tonight. Listen for it. It never comes. What he gets is arrows. 3 arrows. History will call this day the Butcher's Ball. And in the true history, the hand on the bow belongs to a different member of the same house. Hold on to that one. And be clear, this is not the complaint you think it is. He does not get his duel. Not on screen, not on the page. The show did not take that from him. It is the point of the battle in both versions, and the show understood that better than anything it has made this season. Everything else tonight happens in the shadow of that field. A witch drags a chest into the light in a cursed castle. A mother is handed an errand she cannot refuse. A dragon rider walks into a town to fetch his wife. And the greatest dragon alive is missing, and nobody can find her. Carry one last thing in with you. After the arrows, Fire and Blood adds 4 more words about the man lying in that grass. They are the coldest words in the whole dance. This hour never says them. We will before we are done. Welcome to Westeros Within, where we journey into forgotten ages, hidden legends, and ancient mysteries. But tonight, as we have all season, we turn to the screen. House of the Dragon, Season 3, Episode 6. Faceless Men, 7 Boards, The Riverlands, King's Landing, Tumbleton, Harrenhal, The Vale, the Valyrian Fleet, and a king on the run. It opens on a death. It closes on a man taken in the dark. Before we begin, if you enjoy these breakdowns, please subscribe and give this video a like. It genuinely helps us, and it tells us you want more of the true history. And one more thing. Our companion app, Westeros Within, is now out for iPhone and iPad. It has our episodes, a library of illustrated read-along books with reading tracking, a character codex, and family trees of the houses of the dance. It is only the first version, and we are adding more to it all the time. So if there is a feature you would like, or a family tree we should expand, tell us in the comments below. The link is in the description. Now, back to the dance. We walk the hour in order and lay the true history under every scene, with Mushroom, Septon Eustace, and Munkun quarreling in the margins. The fuller change list is in the description. And carry the book's order with you. The capital falls, then Cole dies at the Butcher's Ball, then Ormund dies at Tumbleton. The show ran its Tumbleton 2 episodes early, so the Greens die out of order tonight. If you have never read the book, you will leave knowing everything. If you have, you already know which sentence we are waiting for. Full spoilers start now. Dawn in the river country. Mist in the grass. A scout rides back with news he cannot make sense of. Tully has been through, and there is a camp ahead. Then we see it. Tents standing. Banners standing. Everything else lying down. Cold fires. A meal nobody is eating. All rivermen, no sign of the foe. Then a man names the trap. They did not fall here. So they walk in, and the dead stand up. Cole's line rallies on the words of the house he serves. We light the way. The true words of House Hightower, per a wiki of ice and fire. Then a banging starts, slow and even, and does not stop. A war drum. This was not the battle, someone says. Someone asks who they are. 2 words come back. Our death. The main host is behind them. A young voice styles him traitor, usurper, and defiler of justice. The recaps identify him as Oscar Tully, and Cole asks for the only thing left. If I strike my banners, will you spare my men their lives? A chuckle answers. I made a promise to the dead, Cole. A sept of traitors' bones, and I don't have near enough bones yet. Cole warns that many of them will die too. That, he is told, is why they came. Then Roderick Dustin, per the recaps. What better way to die than blade in hand? Stand where he is standing. Winter is Cummings' recap counts about 15 people with him against an army of thousands. Their count, not ours. You have just offered to lay down your banners to save them, and been laughed at. What do you ask for next? He asks for a duel. As you will it, he says, and proposes they begin right there. One of him against the two of them. Then the question this hour is built on. Will that be enough to make a fight of it? That is the closest the show has come to Fire and Blood all season. Adapted clause by clause, and 2 sentences survive word for word. As you will it, and will that be enough to make a fight of it? In the book he faces 3 commanders. One of me against the 3 of you. The show fields 2 and matches his arithmetic. Not a slip. Adaptation. Nobody speaks during the next detail, so it is not in our transcript. 9 outlets report that before the offer, Cole winds Alicent's favor around his sword hilt. In the book, that favor is where the man begins. She gave him her token at the tourney of 111 AC. Remember that hilt. We come back to it in a room she is standing in. The duel does not happen. Arrows, somber music, a back, a stillness, a drum going on without him. That is all you get from us. He never got to yield, and he never got to fight. He offered to surrender and was refused. He offered single combat and was answered before a blade crossed. And here is what the cold open told you to listen for. Fire and blood does not cut to arrows. It hands the answer to Sir Pate of Longleaf, a Riverlands knight who a year earlier was a squire. A wiki of ice and fire keeps it whole. I'll want 3 more. I'll have no songs about how brave you died, Kingmaker. There's tens of thousands dead on your account. That is the verdict of a whole war, said to one man's face in front of everyone. It refuses him the duel. It refuses him the song. And it puts the dead on his ledger. And then Fire and Blood adds the 4 words we promised you in the first minute. He was speaking to a corpse. Pate did not know. Every syllable of that verdict landed on a man who could not hear it. And this is the part that stings. Last week, this show built a Criston Cole, who wanted songs sung of how he died. It laid the trap across 2 hours. Then it went quiet and fired. So play that scene again with those words in it. Does the death get bigger or smaller? Hold your answer. Later tonight, we argue against ourselves, because the best thing written about this hour all week says the opposite. But first, look at the hand that ended him. In Fire and Blood, there are 3. A wiki of ice, and Fire's Criston Cole page has Red Rob Rivers and 2 of his longbowmen striking the Kingmaker down with 3 arrows on Pate's order. Our transcript carries 2 arrow cues. 9 outlets say 3, and so does the book. Here is the line that made us sit up. Red Rob Rivers, the bowman of Raventree, is a bastard of House Blackwood. The show did not take that arrow from House Blackwood. It moved it from the Blackwood bastard to the Blackwood trueborn, though the wiki will not join them up. His kinship is unknown, and he is nobody's named brother. The archer on that ridge is never named aloud in this hour. Not once. Alicent Blackwood reaches us from the synopsis, the cast list, and the recaps, not the screen. In the book, she is not at this battle. but look what they found for her. At the burning mill, Sir Amos Bracken killed her brother in single combat and died moments later. A weirwood arrow that found the gap in his helm. Keep the hedge, because the book does. According to the Blackwoods, that arrow was hers. The same shot, answering the same thing, at a different man. If you have read that page, you already flinched. Nerdist argued the swap made her look craven, and note what that rests on. It is a reading of a performance, not an event. It cannot be about method, because the book kills Cole the same way, at range, on an order, before any duel. What changed is staging. 3 bows on a command is an army's verdict. 1 archer alone is a dishonor. So ask yourself, is an arrow at range a coward's answer to an offer of single combat? Or the only sane answer any commander in that field could give? Only the number of hands changed. Does that change your verdict? Now, the quieter losses. That Sept of Bones boast belongs on the page to Sir Garibald Grey, who commanded here and named the day after it. Today was butchery, not battle. The show kept his line, handed it to a Tully boy, and wrote him out. And the boy is a declared composite, the wiki says so outright, merged with Elmo and Kermit. Now the credit. Roderick Dustin is exactly where he belongs, Roddy the Ruin of Barrowton, who sounded the charge that began the Butcher's Ball once the Kingmaker fell. The ambush folds in a second book event, the skirmish at Crossed Elms, and the wiki catches its author in one sentence. Black Trombo was a mummer before he was a sellsword. In an episode called Faceless Men, the man who invented standing corpses is not in it. Now, the deepest change. In the book, the Butcher's Ball comes first, and one errand stitches it to Tumbleton. Garibald and Pate carried proof of his death south to First Tumbleton. Cole had been marching that way himself with 3,600 men to reinforce Ormund. He never arrived, and the east lay open. The show fought Tumbleton 2 episodes ago and killed Cole tonight. So his death explains nothing now. It is a cold open. Our reading, marked as ours. Garibald and Pate both die at First Tumbleton. Run that battle early, and neither is alive to answer him here, which is very likely why a Tully boy stands in that field. Not a whim, a consequence. Come in out of the mud, into a warm room where nobody knows the war has changed. Daemon mourns Sir Luther, and 4 and 10 of his best men, 5 and 20 of the watch dead. The queen does not grieve, she counts. Where is my army? Sir Criston has hindered them, she is told. Sir Criston has hindered nothing. He died in the first 10 minutes of this hour, and nobody in that room knows it. Daemon wants to burn Tumbleton. Lady Sabitha stops him. On a dragon, she presumes. A beast well known for its delicacy and precision in battle. Credit that. It is the book's own argument, and the book's Rhaenyra falls for it. Daemon plays the prophecy card. Rhaenyra answers with the sentence, "The hour turns on." The conqueror burned enemy soldiers, not subjects who bent the knee. Then, "I will send knives." And then, the title. But the most effective assassin has a plain face. There is no assassination program anywhere in Fire and Blood. A wiki of Ice and Fire has Knights Inquisitor hunting the men who helped Aegon II escape. Fugitives, not generals. Alan offers the Velaryon detachment. She declines and asks how many remain. "Some 60, your grace." 60 men. That is the whole answer a queen is about to give a frightened city, asking who will protect them. Remember that number. Then the Baratheon delegation arrives. Where is Lord Boros? In the Red Mountains, after the Vulture King, and the show did not invent that. A wiki of Ice and Fire has Boros marching into those mountains rather than fight. Only there he rides for the greens. Same evasion, other banner. Then she cuts him. As it was his duty to guard my son when he came to treat with him beneath his roof. Beneath his roof is Boros's own loophole, the one he used at Storm's End to let Aemond loose outside it. She is quoting the weasel that killed her son back at his envoy, and that reading is ours. Give me your belt. 2 facts, side by side. Rhaenyra takes a Baratheon man's belt tonight. Later, strangers walk into Tumbleton in House Baratheon's name. The show never states the link. You draw it. In an alley, a bound man knows the face above him. Daemon Targaryen. Per the synopsis, Daemon wears a watchman's uniform to hunt the men killing watchmen. We have no number. We are everywhere. Then the sentence we think names the episode. We have no sign or sigil. Count them with us. 6 faces in 1 hour. Dead men standing at dawn. A queen's plain face. A prince in a watchman's uniform. A rebel with no sigil. Killers under a great house's name. And a dragon rider in a carter's coat, still to come. The best face is the one left out, and you already have his name. Underneath it all is the change that decides how Rhaenyra falls. Fire and Blood has no green terror network. It has Larys Strong and a rumor, and what bleeds the watch on the page is money. The book blames Rhaenyra. The show blames a purse. Den of Geek calls the invention one of the show's best, and we agree. It is well made. It just costs the book its point. Rhaenyra asks Mysaria whether she suspected the escape. No. Then, after a beat, no. 8 outlets read that as a lie, and the proof arrives 10 scenes later. And outside the walls, a king is burying a man while Larys Strong finds him passage east. Back to the Red Keep, and listen to this one, rather than watch it. A baby cries and never settles. Tallow is scarce and costs thrice what it did. The Queen's answer is not cruel. It is worse. It is administrative. Sir Torrhen Manderly is master of coin. Then, bring the next. Next a septa, and this one hurts. Her mother house has lost the watch's protection. And last night, one of their girls was taken. That is as much as we will say, tonight or ever. The horror is not the crime. It is the reply. She shall light a candle for her. A candle. Then Godric, a mason. Gold cloaks murdered. The streets undefended. She points past him and says, "The craven Ormund strikes at me from Tumbleton." Godric asks, "But how will we now be protected?" Then her one promise, "And there is your number. I have sent for Valyrian men." And Godric puts the whole plot into 9 words. "We have none to look to now but you." Now the true history, where she fails at the opposite thing. Her master of coin in the book is Lord Bartimos Celtigar, who lays taxes that, in the book's words, increased day by day, until the small folk christened her King Maegor with teats. The book's queen is rapacious. The show's is broke. Then, the show does something nobody speaks over, so our transcript missed it. 7 outlets report it. As she sits there, the Iron Throne cuts her hand. And the hedge matters more than the image. A throne that spurns the unworthy is Septon Eustace's reading, and Eustace is Aegon, the second's partisan. The show films as fact what the book files as one biased man's opinion. So, the whitewash argument. Screen Rant says again, the show is pulling fault away from Rhaenyra. Den of Geek, the AV Club, and Forbes argue the opposite about the same hour. Both are right. It has taken her crimes away from her, and then, without a word of dialogue, it had the chair pass judgment anyway. Is that mercy for a character, or having it both ways? You decide, because we do not think there is a clean answer. Leave her there with her hand closed. Far to the north, in a castle that eats the people who own it, somebody is opening a chest. Harrenhal, Rain on Melted Stone, A One-Eyed Prince, and Alys Rivers with the best line written for this show all year. A frog in winter sleeps under the ice. Still, silent. Let the world think you dead until the spring thaw. It is in no book, and no proverb sits under it. Theirs. And say this plainly, because it is the thing most likely to be got wrong this week. Vhagar is alive. Vhagar will come to me, Aemond insists, and the hour says so 3 times. Him here, Rhaenyra complaining her riders have searched and searched, and Alicent saying only that she did not say she knows where Vhagar is. Alys has the sharpest idea in the hour. Perhaps the dragon left to hide him, since the queen assumes the rider stands where the dragon lands. Rhaenyra has 6 dragons to your 1, she tells him, and Forbes checked that against the show's ledger, and it holds. Later, in the dark, a horse. A soft word. 1 eye, then a cut to her face. 5 outlets report what follows and who does it. No more than that from us. Then she drags out a chest. Dreamfire. Rhaena Targaryen came here after her daughter died, she says, grieved here, grew old here, and her dragon left a clutch, cold and abandoned these 100 years. So check her. She did come here after her daughter Arya died. She lodged in this castle's widow's tower. Her hair went white as she aged. She died here in 73 AC. Dreamfire bonded to her since 32 AC, and beside her at the end. That is a wiki of ice and fire, and every word holds. Sit with how strange that is, because what follows does not. Your ancestor, she calls Rhaena. She is not. Rhaena was Aenys the First's daughter, and Jaehaerys the First's sister, the sister of Aemond's great-grandfather, and she left no descendants. These 100 years. The show has never put a year on screen, so the arithmetic is ours. Rhaena died in 73 AC. This war is 130. Alys says 100. The histories say closer to 60. And Alys is a character, not a caption. Rounding upward is what a woman selling a vision does. A slip or a sales pitch? You decide. And the clutch, where the wording is the whole job. No surviving source records a clutch of Dreamfire's eggs at Harrenhal. That is not the same as the book saying there were none. Fire and blood is a deliberately unreliable history, and an absence in it is an argument from silence. 2 of Dreamfire's clutches are never tracked at all. The show walked through a door the book left open. Now, the piece nobody has run. Fire and blood on Rhaena's years here. Her hair turned white as she aged, and the small folk in the Riverlands began to fear her as a witch. A white-haired widow held this castle 60 years before Alys stood in it, in the same tower. And the book later calls Alys simply the Widow. Alys is living inside Rhaena's outline, and that reading is ours. She closes on a promise. He is a Targaryen prince, and your sons will be Targaryen princes in their turn. Then he touches an egg and says 2 words. It's warm. Hold on to that word. Warm. And hold on to her name too, Rhaena, because it is about to turn up on a hillside outside Tumbleton. A ridge above Tumbleton at dusk, 2 nights changing watch. Market day tomorrow. It will all be the same again, Hugh Hammer says. The recaps name the other man Sir Ulf White. But we're not the same, are we? And here is the book, quiet and terrible. Vermithor often coiled with Silverwing in the fields near Tumbleton during his final days. Final days. You know what that means. They do not. And here is the layer nobody has connected. By legend, and keep that hedge, Rhaena Targaryen placed the eggs in the cradles of Jaehaerys and Alicent that hatched those 2. The woman whose clutch Alys drags into the torchlight gave the realm the dragons on that hill. The board is inverted. In the book, Tumbleton is Rhaenyra's town, and those two were sent to hold it for her, then turned on it. Battle and betrayal are one event. Both hosts halt on the same ground. The book screams because Ormund is dead, the show's because he lives. Gawain warns that dragons will burn this host. Ormund answers in two flat pieces. She is a woman. Squeamish. But Ormund dies at First Tumbleton and crowns nobody. And Gawain should be months dead, killed at the fall of King's Landing by his own commander, Luther Largent. Episode 5 killed Largent. Episode 6 has the man Largent kills in the book saved the green cause. Not sparing a man, reversing a killing. Then a boy who does not believe in his own crown asks the question that ties this camp to the Red Keep. Did you see my mother? No answer. Book Darren is Ormund's squire, and nobody crowns him. Yet Darren the Daring is a real epithet, coined by Ormund when he knighted him after the honey wine, a battle this show never staged. So ask what a boy is, handed a hero's name for a fight nobody let him have. A herald gives him his full style. Lord Ormund Hightower, Beacon of the South, Defender of the Citadel, and Voice of Old Town. All three titles are real, straight off his page at a wiki of ice and fire. Then the tell, and the envoy fails it. Well met, Sir Ormund, not Lord, and you are already holding the belt. The herald begins Darren's style and is cut off mid-title. We cut there too, and return on stillness. Over it, Gawain's reveal. The real Baratheon knight has hair of light chestnut. He had met the man. The killers had not. And 4 outlets report the assassins were made filthy, because Ormund cannot abide a smell, which is the whole mechanism. Ormund's answer is a threat we will not repeat in any form. What matters is the man at his shoulder, while he says it. Sir John Roxton. The book has a job waiting for him, and this show has just pointed him the wrong way. His reply goes back on a dead assassin's stolen vest, per comic book club. That night, a man in Carter's clothes walks into Tumbleton, and 4 outlets say he beat the Carter for them. There is the 6th face. Cat walked here from the capital. Hugh tells her he has claimed Vermithor and been knighted. Her answer is 2 words. You smell different. Then this. Do you know what may befall a woman alone on that road? And many things happened. Her words, and we leave them as they are. I won't forsake my family. Then he tries to carry her out of that room against her will, and is interrupted. Both synopses call this a wife who will not leave. It is more than that. Fire and Blood gives Hugh no wife. He is a blacksmith's bastard of Dragonstone, allowed to mount Vermithor. So dragon and knighthood are both right. Cat is invented, and doing enormous work. Because in the book, Tumbleton burns when Hugh Hammer turns Vermithor on it. The show has walked his wife into that town and had her refuse to leave. We are not going to tell you what that means. You worked it out already. And that is what a good invention does. It does not change the history. It makes you dread it. Go back a few hours. Alicent stops her own sentencing with a secret. Helaena is with child. Rhaenyra breaks. I didn't. Then, and now I must. Fire and Blood has no such pregnancy, and could not. The only story the histories hold of this queen captive and with child is mushrooms, and Gildane discredits it. A rumor the book calls false, made canon on screen, and Alicent's own title in the book is The Queen in Chains. Her daughter will not eat. Mysaria knew of our plan, Helaena says, but she said nothing of Jaehaera. There it is. 10 scenes after Mysaria said no, twice. The proof. And in the book, Rhaenyra is the child who gets out, and the price of ending the war. Then the bargain. Alicent knows where Aemond is. Rhaenyra says her riders searched Harrenhal for Vhagar. I did not say I know where Vhagar is. Alive, riderless, and lost to both sides at once. Rhaenyra names it herself. Like Daenerys, who foresaw the doom. The hour's biggest lore drop, and clean canon. And the author calls this show's Helaena richer and more fascinating than the one he wrote. Then, the trap. Not swords. One sword. Someone he trusts. Both synopses call this a mother sent to kill her son. The scene never says the word, and that restraint is the best thing in it. Now the inversion, and it is total. Book Alicent pled for peace, on her knees before the Iron Throne, asking that the realm be divided. She never leaves the city, and when Aemond dies, she is a prisoner in golden fetters. The one time anyone in Fire and Blood tries to stop this war is the moment this show turns a mother into a weapon. Why? In the book, Mysaria's whisper sends a killer to Harrenhal. This show spent that engine in the Vale, so it built a replacement. Our reading, not the show's. Then, the quietest scene in the hour. Helaena asks what this series has owed her 3 seasons. Why am I here? It was my father's wish. The girl eats, and her mother promises they will walk out in the sun. That is the whole of her comfort. A bowl, an answer, and a promise nobody can keep. Remember that sword hilt. The reporting we cited says the last thing Criston Cole did before offering that duel was wrap her favor around it. She stands in this room, handed a knife and a promise, and nobody is ever going to tell her. 4 outlets predict she does not survive it. Their consensus, not ours. Sit in that room a moment and ask what you would do with a knife you did not ask for. And in the book, Alicent is inside this castle tonight. The show has walked her out. One more cage. In the Vale, a scream falls beneath the eyrie, and Jane Arryn turns on Rhaenyra for being seen. The Queen thinks Sheep-Stealer's rider is dead, Rhaenyra answers. All my life, I have yearned after a dragon. The synopses say Jane throws her out. As played, it is a warning, and this is not our inference. A wiki of Ice and Fire says it outright. In the television adaptation, Nettles is merged with Rhaenyra Targaryen. The book's Rhaenyra is Jane's ward, in comfort, with no dragon, and Jane is no frightened harborer. She raises armies for the Queen, and here is a cost nobody counts. Book Rhaenyra carries 3 dragon eggs to the Vale. Without them, the last dragon of this war has nowhere to come from. One more father, telling a child what he may not have. A son asks for men and gets a wound. You serve her, and she will not legitimize you. Alan's answer goes in like a boarding axe. And how many years did it take you to do the same? Fire and Blood grants what the show withholds. Per a wiki of Ice and Fire, Corlys petitioned, the Queen complied, both brothers were legitimized, and Adam was named heir to Driftmark. And on the brothers, 2 sentences, side by side. In Fire and Blood, Adam is the elder, born a year before Alan. On screen tonight, Alan says, I am the eldest. We cannot establish what the show claimed before this hour, so we set those down and stop. Even their father is disputed. Merilda named Lyonor, Mushroom says Corlys, Gildane leaves it unsettled. Then the fleet. You have fought like sharks. Then the turn. Blades are needed in the city. Then a hesitation. I have been too long away. You planted this one with us. Alan asked for the men. The Queen promised them to a frightened city. The sea snake grants them. And then the show cuts it. A challenge in the dark. Shouting. Black. And the empty place where he stood. The true history jails him too. and her own side does it. Only Corlys speaks for Adam. He warns the boy. And the queen puts her own hand in a black cell, per the wiki's Adam page. And his men, half her army in that city, leave her by the hundreds. So she still loses the Valerians. She still promised them to the city first. And now it is not her fault. Third self-inflicted wound this season moved onto an enemy, and that count is ours. Is he alive? There is no body. 6 outlets read a capture. 1 reviewed it as a death, so we hedge. The book has him dying old at 79. The synopsis names his captor John Roxton. Orphan maker in hand, one of the Caltrops. His whole life on record at Tumbleton. Per the wiki, his one famous act is killing Hugh Hammer. So Hugh's killer sits in that camp the hour Hugh walks into that town, and the show sends him the other way. If it still wants the Iron Crown, it has to get Roxton back. The hour ends on a voice in the dark, asking a man his errand, exactly as Daemon did. An hour about other men's faces closes on a man who cannot see the one in front of him. 4 questions this hour leaves lying in the road. Pick the one you want us to open with next week and put it in the comments. And 1 note on our sourcing, said once tonight. The wiki blocked automated requests all week, so every book page here came from snapshots, archived before broadcast. Mystery 1. Do those eggs hatch? Here is why that word matters. It's warm. Grand Maester Benefer's theory in the book is that eggs kept from Dragonstone's heat turn to stone. 60 cold years in a wet ruin should leave a chest of rocks. And warm to one hand, unfelt by anyone else, is Daenerys Targaryen's grammar exactly. That echo is ours, and so is the hope in it. Then this. In 132 AC, a survivor of Alys Rivers's Harrenhal came back with a report. There's power in them stones, and the widow's woken it. 7 save us all. She has a dragon. I seen it. Gildane never explains it, and tonight's line about an ancient strength in that castle is nearly the same words, 2 years early. The show may be answering him, and that reading is ours. Mystery 2. Will Alicent do it? The book says no. Aemond dies above the God's Eye in 130 AC, his mother in golden fetters in King's Landing. And a wiki of ice and fire has this beat already, running the other way. It was Alys who told Aemond where to find Daemon. The witch tells him where his killer waits. The show sends his mother where he hides. Winter is coming, closes it off. That death is too famous to give away. So here is ours, labeled. She does not land the blow. The errand is how the blacks find him. Mystery 3. Where is Vhagar? Alive. Missing. Riderless. Unfound by either side. Can she be claimed? Over and over. 29 years unridden after Visenya, then Bylon, then riderless again until Rhaenyra Velaryon, then a boy of 10 at a funeral. And this show has spent a season putting dragonless claimants on the board. Rhaenyra in the Vale, who has yearned after a dragon all her life. A one-eyed prince over a chest of warm eggs. You can name the third. And in the book, Vhagar has 1 appointment left above a lake. Mystery 4. Hugh or Ulf, who breaks first? Credit first, and loudly. Fire and Blood gives the 2 betrayers no build at all. It records what they do and never says why. The show is repairing a real weakness in its own source. The book's answer is bleaker. Daemon lobbied for these 2, proposing marriages, then Casterly Rock for one, and Storm's End for the other. Rhaenyra and Corlys refused every time, and the men are built out of footnotes. Ulf's canonical detail is his alehouse, the Bawdy Badger, and, according to Mushroom, a knight riding through Flea Bottom in nothing but golden spurs. Hughes, according to Mushroom again, is beating a man to death in a street, handed here to Daemon. And we told you the town burns. Now the realm reacts, and everything here is their verdict, not ours. 8 reviews mourned the sentence nobody said. Winter is coming in both of its columns, the AV Club, Den of Geek, Nerdist, Time, TV Obsessive, and MovieWeb. And then The Ringer went the other way, with the paragraph we promised you, and it argues the cut made the death more inglorious, not less faithful. Omitting Pate of Longleaf and his iconic line may not be strictly true to the text, but it is in the spirit of it when you think about it. Alicent's errand split them harder than anything else this week. 6 against, 3-4. Winter is Coming's recap called it the season's most idiotic plot turn, with Den of Geek, Comic Book Club, and TV Fanatic behind it. Screen Rant, Fangirlish, and that masthead's own book column defend it. 2 camps, 2 questions. Would Alicent do this? No. Does Rhaenyra have another option? No. Both sides answered their own question correctly, and that is why it splits people. Is Corlys alive? 6 outlets read a capture. NPR points out we see no body. Den of Geek alone reviewed it as a death and gave its final third to an obituary. That is not a critic's error. That is the show refusing to show you a body. And then the strangest number of the week. 1 masthead, 1 hour, 2 reviews filed the same day. A letter and a half apart. A C from the recap column. A B+ from the book column, the exact opposite of last week. They are not divided about quality. They are arguing about which half of the hour counts. Our reading is that the spread across the graded reviews is the widest of the season. Not the average. The variance. 1 last count, and then we are done with other people's opinions. Most reviewers were against Baela and Aelin, and for Alys and Aemond, and everyone named the same variable, screen time. And one objection is not about pacing. Some critics argued the show has romanticized a relationship built on a power imbalance. What it got right, and we will say it loudly. The parley, clause by clause, the closest this show has come in 3 seasons. 3 arrows and a Blackwood archer, so the arrow never left the house the book gave it to. And the 2 betrayers handed the one thing fire and blood refuses them, which is a reason. Then a shelf of smaller things, Roddy the Ruin in the correct field, the true Hightower words, a real Vulture King footnote, Rhaenyra's Harrenhal years, and Baela and Alan, the pairing we called wrong last week. Then what it rewrites, without heat. Gwaine, months dead in the book, killed by a commander this show killed last week, alive here to save the green cause. Alicent, who in the book spends this exact moment on her knees before the Iron Throne begging for peace, sent out of the city with a blade instead. And Corlys, jailed in the book by his own queen, taken by an enemy here. Not a detail. That is the mechanism by which she loses half her army, and the show has given it away. So the thesis lands on the cut, not on the list. Cole's last conversation, almost clause for clause. Then silence. At the moment, the book answers him. I'll have no songs about how brave you died, Kingmaker. We do not know whether that silence is the betrayal or the point, and we will not pretend we do. You have had every source we had tonight. You are allowed to be surer than we are. 2 halves pulling opposite ways. An opening closer to the book than anything this show has filmed, and everything after it rewriting why Rhaenyra falls. Last season, this show was diverging from the book. This week, it started diverging from itself. And then, the image. While she tells a frightened city she will light a candle for a girl who was taken, the throne cuts her hand. In the beat, 7 outlets reported, and no dialogue covers. And that verdict belongs to Septon Eustace, Aegon II's partisan, not to the histories. Now look at what is loaded. A warm clutch of eggs in a castle where a woman the histories call the widow will one day be reported to have a dragon. A mother carrying a promise she cannot keep. A wife who will not leave a town, the book burns. The greatest dragon of the age, alive and riderless, with one appointment above a lake. And a king bound east when the book sends him where this war ends. So tell us below, which change cuts deepest? The line they would not say, the errand they gave Alicent, or the hand the show would not let her jail? Make your case, because we read every comment, and the conversation under these breakdowns is the finest master's conclave on this side of the screen. Then subscribe, so you are here next week when we open whichever of those 4 mysteries you pick. And our histories are waiting below. The men who closed the trap at the butcher's ball, and the widow of Harrenhal. And if you want the true history with you between episodes, our companion app, Westeros Within, is out now for iPhone and iPad, and the link is in the description. Until the next raven flies, this has been Westeros Within.